It's the Reform or Die podcast, where nothing is off limits and everything must be reformed.
All right. This is the Reform or Die podcast. We're back for part 2 of our discussion going over the debate between boomers and millennials in regards to the conservative movement or the MAGA party in the United States.
Who knows? Maybe it's part 3 or 4.
It could be part 3 or 4.
We just don't know.
I'm joined by Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great, man. It's been a long time no see, you know?
Thanks for hosting me here at my apartment.
Yeah. This is actually, we're just seamlessly going into the next recording. We just recorded part 1 or 1 and 2, whatever it turns into. Thatcher is no longer with us. He didn't die. He left. He had to go home. But we really appreciated his input, and I'll do my best to represent his position as well during this discussion.
Maybe I should be representing Thatcher's position.
I can do it.
We'll let you be the opposition, you know?
I've known Thatcher longer than you, all right?
That's true. Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, so if you guys haven't looked at part 1 first, you should probably go back and listen to part 1. Otherwise, you might be a little lost. But we're kind of going through this portion of debate. We were talking
Brandon Straka's video.
Yeah, what's his name? Brandon
Straka.
Brandon Straka. It's a really interesting format. It's really, really helpful, I think, as far as getting discussion out in the open and kind of talking about the differences between the millennials and the boomers. Notably, Gen X and Zoomers are absent from this debate, but it's okay. We'll take what we can get.
You know, I don't even know how old some of the millennial guys are here. They're probably in their mid-30s.
They're still millennials.
Yeah, they are. But I mean, I think they're kind of supposedly representative of the younger generations, basically.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think...
although apparently the millennials have no style, according to younger generations. So
it's true.
I don't know, but you know.
But yeah, we left off kind of getting into a little bit of a contentious topic regarding immigration, and specifically the point of race was brought up, and boomers' relation to racial topics.
Oh, so you waited till Thatcher left because he had to go, and then you're like, okay, now we're talking about race. Is that what?
No, that was not my intention. But now that you say that, it sounds a lot like that's what I meant to do.
It sounds sinister now.
That's not at all my intention. All right.
No, we just had part 1, and then yeah. So I was very curious about that. Do we want to?
Let's roll.
Do we want to roll a little bit and then talk some more?
Roll a little bit and then we'll talk.
Roll the tape. I guess that's a millennial reference or above, you know?
Yeah, you're old, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
They can't find any money to build a wall. They can't find, any solution to the SAVE Act. So it seems like if he really was authoritarian, like the left describes him, he would be able to do all this stuff that he said he was going to do.
Right.
Or if the wall was on the other side of the planet, we could build it like that.
This question, though, because this is a point on which I vehemently agree.
Yes.
We've witnessed on our watch, yes, probably not because of conservatives, but because of the left and the establishment, Republicans particularly, this incremental boiling of the frog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think that this is where,
thing.
to answer the
question.
question.
You agree with that? I mean,
well, I think
you, Harrison, obviously, but is that speaking for millennials?
Well, let me try to rephrase it and go back to what you said. When I said we don't want to hear about this post-World War II foreign policy anymore, he said, no, we can't move on. And we're sitting here ripping our hair out. We're like, why? Why can we never move on? Why do I have to sit here and hear about blacks are victims, Jews are victims? I'm sick of it. Why? What are we doing here? Foreign policy, Russia is the boogeyman? Am I stuck in the Cold War?
How do those two things have to do with each other?
Because this is it. This is the grasp that we can't get rid of.
Different things, though.
But it's not. It's overall. It's everything. It's everything. We're sitting here saying we all agree the country's going the wrong way. We all agree we've incrementally watched our country get stolen. Millennials are saying let's do it differently, and the boomers keep doing the same thing over and over.
Oh, no, hold it.
Well, they're about ready to jump in after that comment, but Owen is definitely showing some passion here. He's upset, and I can understand that. And he is kind of talking a little bit to the post World War II, we just never stop hearing about World War II, which I have some sympathy for. But he is also talking about the race question we talked about previously. And on part 1, or whatever it is of this, we mentioned one of the panelists from the millennial side was saying, boomers get really uncomfortable when you talk about race. And part of that is in the 1960s, we mentioned this previously, it was 90% white Christian in the country. And now it's completely different. It's a lot more multicultural, which the left, views diversity as our strength. That's the way they view that. And I would say, unity of values is our strength. And the problem is that we've lost a unity of values. And, there is some level of cultural differences are not always easy to navigate. I mean, we saw that when the Irish and Germans were coming over to large degrees in previous times to America. It was hard for even similar cultures to assimilate that were different, right? Coming from the same regions. So I don't know. What do you think about the race question, Jacob?
That's a big question, Kyle.
What do you think about it in general? Should we be thinking racially as Christians or not? Or yes and no?
I think when it comes to matters of salvation, those kinds of things, talking about, our faith, I don't think race plays a role in that at all.
Neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, that.
Yeah, that's pretty explicit in Scripture that doesn't play a role at all. When it comes to national sovereignty, when it comes to culture, I think it plays a role. And I think to ignore that is just putting your head in the sand. The colorblind culture that you were raised in, I was raised in that too, but I was homeschooled, so I'm just kind of stupid. I don't know anything when it comes to culture or interacting with society.
I'm not laughing, you're laughing. I'm not crying, you're crying.
But I think you have to acknowledge this stuff. And it's not as much like saying race is kind of a generalization. I don't think it has as much to do with the ethnicity of someone or
like
their skin color.
Tone. Yeah.
I think it has a lot more to do with culture. It has everything to do with culture. I think it's totally objectively true that there are cultures in this world that are not compatible with Western culture. Now, there's different types of Western culture, and you could argue, we've got gangbangers in the hood who drive around and deal drugs and shoot each other. I would argue that's not really Western culture. That's kind of a culture that came out of circumstances revolving around people groups being moved. I don't want to get too in the weeds on that, but we've developed a lot of these little subcultures, and they almost always revolve around immigration of some sort. And we still see that today. And you just can't deny it. You cannot deny the fact that there are cultures in this world that do not fit with broadly the culture of this country. It is, and it is something that will literally be the death of our country if we do not pay attention to it. If you look at countries that are kind of ethnically homogenous, places like Japan or like Poland, they're relatively strong. They have a very homogenous culture, and they guard that very closely, right? Specifically with Japan. I don't hear any outcry about Japan being racist. I don't hear any outcry about people saying, oh, there's too many people with squinty eyes in Japan. It's like, no, when you go to Japan, you expect to see Japanese people speaking Japanese and living in a Japanese lifestyle, right? They have that culture. And they guard that very closely. And by Western standards, yeah, they're racist. So is every other country with a few exceptions in this world, especially South America. If you ask a South American from Cuba about Haitians or about Hondurans or about Mexicans, they'll have some colorful things to say about that.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of getting a little bit to the point of there's a slight difference between racism and in-group preference, or majority culture preference.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a difference there?
Yeah, no. And I think that's kind of Owen's point is like, when are we going to stop talking about race? When are we going to stop talking about racism, I guess? When are we going to stop talking about the all the disparities of like these different cultures and their treatment? Because to me, it just kind of just distracts from the issue. Like, why can't we just acknowledge the objective truths and move on and work based on those understandings? Why do we have to be so touchy on different subjects? Like, why do we have to tiptoe around the fact that, like, if Islam is implemented like widespread in this country in different communities, it's going to be a horrible thing and it will just kind of destroy this nation, right? Look at Dearborn, Michigan, right?
That kind of gets to the point of, do you want America to have millions and millions of Indians or Germans or Norwegians or Kenyans or like, I mean, the culture is so different, right? And like, I don't necessarily want to go hear the Islamic call to prayer. I don't at all actually want to hear that in our country anywhere.
No, not at
I don't
all.
want to go through communities that are like 99% Islamic. I just don't.
Yeah.
Is that bad to say?
No, I don't think it's bad. And
But I mean, that's taboo, right? That's politically incorrect to say.
according to, and I've noticed that wall has broken down a lot with the younger generations. There's really, you can say a lot, you can bring up a lot without being like anathematized from the culture. But when you talk to, like, they're kind of making that point. When you talk to the older generations, it's like
But
like
they
you have
consider
three
that
heads.
racist, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so like this was something that I noticed when I lived in New York. I lived in New York for a time. Like people out there, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, they had, you know, what they called employee resource groups at companies that I worked for. And they had every group under the sun for every type of people group, Pacific Asian, you know, African American, etc., men, you know, women. But they didn't have any male group and they didn't have any white group, like at all. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Shouldn't everybody have a group? But like, those were the only ones that weren't allowed to have a group, which I thought was kind of strange. But they
Sounds
didn't.
racist.
Well, right, but they didn't see it that way because they saw it as like a good form of, like, they wouldn't have called it racist, but they would have said it's like a way of doing something good and like positive racism essentially. And like, you know, they were allowed to say that without any kind of pushback or like negativity, really. Like, in fact, if you spoke up against it, you'd probably get reported to HR. But if I say I don't want to walk through like parts of my city that are, you know, really feel like a cultural element from some other nation, like I would be labeled a racist in the bad way, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that weird? And I feel weird talking about it. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, but you shouldn't. We need to talk about this stuff.
It's awkward to talk about.
It is awkward to talk about, but
I'm just giving you some real thoughts. You know?
When it comes down to it, I think whenever there's a community or a country that holds racist, quote unquote, racist beliefs, they're always the good kind of racism. Not when you're viewing it from the outside or in history, they'll say, oh, that was bad racism. But it's always, there's like with the DEI programs, that's how people always feel when they are when they have racist views, quote unquote, because they are kind of leaning on their prejudices to allow their culture or whatever, their ideals to thrive, right? It's still racism, and maybe in history we'll look back and say, oh, wow, that was so bad. They were so racist. In the same way, we'll say, oh, those people who hated black people were really racist. Maybe they didn't necessarily hate black people. They just didn't want to live in the same community. But it's still all kind of lumped into the same thing in retrospect. But when you're in the moment, it's like, oh, this is okay. This is not okay. And I'm not trying to like justify. I want to make that clear. The actual definition of racism, like definitional racism, is like mistreating people based on their, you know, characteristics, based on, you know, the color of their skin or their nationality. I don't view it that way. I don't I do not think that that is racism, or I think that is racism. I do not think that observing trends and patterns of things that are just, statistics, I don't view that as racism.
We should be able to judge between cultures and say, look, there's some good things white people do. There's some bad things white people do. There's some good things black people do. There's some bad things black people do. There's some good things Asian people do. There's some bad things Asian people do. Right?
100%.
I mean, we should be able to have that conversation.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people from all different ethnic backgrounds that I would consider friends that I really like. And I think they're intelligent and kind people and firm followers of Christ. And really that ethnic makeup has no bearing on that. The main thing that I look at is that cultural influence and how that affects our nation. And I think that is something that has been done throughout all of time. And I don't think that's something that's condemned in any way in scripture either. I think God's pretty clear about there being differences, there being, nations and borders and different peoples, and they are different. People can be different.
There's this is the awkward part to maybe acknowledge, but there is a certain beauty in various cultures. Like you mentioned, the Japanese culture is very beautiful, right? It has its own uniqueness, like different cultures all over the world. That's just one example, but they have their own unique things about them. And sometimes, I'm not saying it's not unique. Like the thing that's unique about America in some regards, and I do, this is a little awkward to mention, but we're kind of built more on an idea, like the idea of we're all equal under God, and there's some level of religious freedom here and First Amendment rights and things like that, right? So like there's a lot that was supposed to be unifying in the beginning of this country based on religious liberty and freedoms. But we also at the same time really were homogenous in our ethnic makeup by and large. And that has only changed, really, truly changed in the last 60 years.
Yeah. And that's one of those statements that people will make that's just like not rooted in truth at all. They'll say, oh, we were a nation of immigrants. True.
We were a nation of settlers.
We were a nation of, even if you want to use the word immigrants, we were a nation of immigrants that were culturally homogenous for the most part.
I kind of reject the immigrant word for the settlers because they weren't immigrating to an established nation. There was like basically nothing here. The Indian tribes were like warring and killing each other, and we just moved in.
Well, yeah, but I mean that only applies to the first people that got here, right?
Yeah, the settlers.
After that,
right.
then it's immigration, right? And there was a lot of immigration at the beginning of this country, but for the most part,
well, actually not for the first 100 years, but after that, it spiked a decent amount.
For the most part,
not to correct you.
For the most part,
go ahead.
That immigration has been relatively, it's not what you think of when you think of immigration. It's not taking equal parts of every person from every nation around the world and bringing them in. That wasn't what it was for a very long time. And our country was very culturally and religiously homogenous for a while. I don't want to be written off as just like a evil rabid racist. I feel like
such a racist.
I feel like I've made my point that I'm not a racist. But here's my
that's what a racist would say.
Yeah, I know. Here's my next point that I don't really hear made a lot, but I feel very strongly about this. When I see, and this is like purely not a selfish view, right? This is looking after other nations. When I see our country importing people from all around the world, quote unquote, exceptional workers, people who are really intelligent, coming to this country to work in the industry. Not only are they taking our jobs, right? But what they're really doing is depriving their home country of that talent. I would like to see a world where we as America raise up our own people to perform these jobs. Maybe we're not going to be number one in the world at whatever that industry is. I want to see India become the world's leading country in pharmaceuticals and tech.
I thought you were going to say call center for a second.
No. If we get all these doctors, if we truly get all these doctors from India and we get all these, tech guys from India and they're really intelligent and capable, why are they not leveraging that in their own country to make their own country better? I would love to see a world where every country keeps their talent and these people build up their nation and make them into like the global, like if you want, like what we have with Taiwan, if you want the best chips in the world, you go to Taiwan, you know?
Well, we really should come here, but yeah.
Well, I want us to be able to have our own things that we're exceptional at. But this idea that we'll just pull people from all around the world and just like make our country great, it's not really working in practice. What it's really doing is causing our native born population to be resentful and economically stunted, and empowering these foreigners to kind of take over our country and change the culture. And sure, we might make a little bit more money, GDP go up, you know, but I think in the long run, we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we're doing these other nations a disservice.
We mentioned this in part 1 a little bit, but you know, the country, yeah, we've moved from the family as being the foundational unit really of this country to workers being the foundational unit. And, you know, wealth is largely held by the top 10%, the top 1% really in our country. It's increasingly that is concerning to me. You know, you could say it's a meritocracy and everything like that, but I mean, if you look at spending charts, the top 10% is like more like a huge chunk of the consumer spending. Might even be the top 1%. It's crazy, like the disbalance, and it's getting more accentuated. So we're basically treating this country as an economic project zone where we're bringing workers in because we don't have subsistence rates for birth rates, because it's like a cycle, right? The family's been destroyed, it's been replaced, and now it's just we just need workers, you know, to keep the project rolling, keep the big company doors open, you know. Yeah. But let's keep rolling here with some of this.
I almost forgot you were
on a roll. That you were on a tear.
Responding to a video.
It's hard, you know. So I gotta jump in and get a word in edgewise. But you're doing good there. You're on a roll. So we got I don't know where we're at in the panel. I think Owen's about ready to shred. So
I think it's. Might be one of the boomers.
Yeah. You're right. It might be kicking to the boomers after Owen just lost his mind there on the boomer panel. All right, here we go.
I disagree with that totally. I mean, this is why I talk. I've said this before a million times. There's too many people, especially millennials, who think that history started in 2015 when Donald Trump came down the escalator. And all of these issues that you're bitching about have been fought time and time and time again.
And we thought Trump was going to be different. That's what we're saying. And it was the same thing.
By the way, so did we.
So did we.
So to your point, I think about immigration, right? But immigration is not only damaging, but it's also a betrayal, right? And that's, you're suffering the effects economically, the financial effects of that horrific chart. That's very real, but I think we're all really suffering a sense of this was, you know, in parlance, this is not what we voted for. But there's a lot of things that we voted for that weren't happening, but certainly getting rid of all illegals and a lot of legals and people who are, you know, here under false pretenses, people who are here literally potential terrorists. Not to mention the whole job situation, and who have completely changed the fabric, the complexion, and I don't care about race, but the entire, if your belief system, you don't like the Judeo-Christian language, but if you're a counter to Judeo-Christian values and you're here and you're imposing your set of worldviews on it and you've taken over town after town, that's a problem.
Who's doing that?
I thought that was one of the most unifying, you know, speeches of the whole thing to me. Like, she did a great job just summarizing the unity. Like, she was sympathizing. I think that goes a long way with the younger generations when you're like, we see the world that you're inheriting and it's not as good as we would have wanted to leave it to you. I mean, just that alone was like a breath of fresh air. It's like, I almost wish I could do this with my elder pastors. You know what I mean? And just sit down and be like, do you understand where we're coming from? Do you sympathize? Do you know the world that we've inherited? Like, I mean, kids these days are growing up in this trans, you know, culture we mentioned before, but it's crazy, man. Like what people are, you know, and I know every generation's had its own problems and et cetera, et cetera. But there's a certain level of insane spirit of deception, right? A lot of boomers will sympathize with this. They believe the world is trending down. A lot of boomer Christians, and they think that Jesus is going to come back soon because things are so insane, and they're, a lot of that premillennial dispensational kind of mindset. Not to get too much into, eschatology, but they kind of see like Christ's return is imminent, and partly because the world's so bad and it's trending down, and they see this spirit of deception, and it really is true. It feels like we're so, I don't know. It just feels like everybody's like in their own world, almost in their own reality. We're all just struggling alone. It's kind of a weird feeling, but I mean, maybe that's why it feels tough with the boomers, is they didn't really grow up in that kind of environment. So we're trying to learn how to navigate this monstrous, technological spike, insane moral country, changing demographics. I mean, there's so much that our younger generations have had to deal with. Honestly, it's kind of a miracle we're doing as well as we are, right? I don't know. Are we doing well? Maybe we're not doing crazy well, but we're hanging in there.
I don't think we're doing crazy well. I think we are on a downward spiral, so to speak. Not saying it's not savable, but it just doesn't look great.
Yes, this was your theory of the wilderness generation.
Yeah, this is the wilderness generation. 40 years in the wilderness. No, but I agree with you. She is consistent with this boomer lady, which sounds like kind of a...
We're not using their real names, sorry. It's
kind of
just because their title cards aren't
sounds like
coming
a slur, but this boomer lady, once again, has a pretty cogent and like good
She had a great statement.
Yeah, I mean, very good. Although the one thing I disagree with, once again, is the Judeo-Christian thing, which I think isn't really her fault, it's his fault.
What she was saying is whatever language you use,
Yes.
those values or whatever values she's referring to. But yeah.
I think it comes from the unprecise speech that was kind of put forth by Owen, right, earlier, because he said imprecise.
All right,
whatever.
I had to call it out. I had to.
It's ironic.
We're live. We're live here, people.
Yeah, there's no
give some grace. Give some grace.
Reshoots on this. We go. We're doing it live, to quote Bill O'Reilly.
We're doing it live.
No, but Owen earlier, when one of the other boomers said Judeo-Christian values, Owen said, I don't want Judeo-Christian values in my politics. And as a response, she's kind of replying to that. I don't know what Owen's religious beliefs are, but I think if he said something more to the tune of like, we want Christian values, we can kick the Judeo out of here. We don't need that. Not saying, we kick the Jews out of the country, but
she would want Christian values.
Yeah, she would agree with that. And she wouldn't I don't think she would come at it from the same angle of like, are you saying you're like an atheist and you just want God as far away from as possible? Again, I don't know Owen's specific religious beliefs, but I think because of kind of his lack of precision with that statement, I think it kind of turns into a little rabbit hole. But that's my only critique with her statement. I agree with her, and it is a breath of fresh air to see that coming from someone of her generation.
Yep, agreed. We'll roll here for a little more.
Where?
Sharia supremacists?
Where?
Right here.
I don't have Muslims telling me anything to do in Texas. I've lived in Texas more than 10 years, and Muslims never told me anything to do.
Stand by.
I have laws in this state that I can't boycott Israel. I have laws in this state against anti-Semitism. Who's writing those laws?
You're going to be finding more and more. This is why 1.9 million Texans in that Republican primary voted to ban Sharia law.
But Frank, this is your fault.
That's what they're coming.
This is your fault because you remember after 9/11 when there was a huge issue of whether or not they could build a mosque at the center of the terror attack?
Center of that.
I know. So I'm saying
my fault.
I'm saying they built the mosque there, right?
They did not build the mosque there.
Well, regardless.
Not able to build the mosque because we stopped it.
Yeah.
But they are working hard to build mosques.
But I'm saying we saw this 20 years ago and we didn't stop it.
Now we've got Mamdani running the frickin'
I know.
So, but hold on a second.
This is my problem.
That's not.
This is my problem. Is that
would be
Donald Trump?
Isn't this selectively enforcing the First Amendment?
No.
You bet they are.
I'm glad he said frickin' there. We probably should have given another warning on this one that there will be some language. I think they're getting into a little bit of a heated section here, but
yeah, I think I don't think this is a useful argument from the millennials. This argument of like, what do you mean? Where are the Muslims? Where's Sharia law? I understand the criticism of like, it's illegal to boycott Israel in Texas. There's anti-Semitism, hate speech laws, whatever those even are, or at the very least, you'll get a knock on the door by some feds if you say something online that they don't like, which has happened in Florida and Texas. But to say that there's not this kind of impending threat from Islam, I think is a stupid argument from the millennial. I'll be the first to give Muslims the benefit of the doubt in some regards when it comes to certain things. When people are, kind of lobbing ad hominem attacks at them or just disingenuous attacks. But it's very real that Islam is a religion that tends to take over.
Of conquest.
Yeah, they're a religion of conquest. And I think it's a stupid and kind of futile line to take for the millennial here.
Well, I really thought you were going to agree a lot more strongly with the millennial panel on that one. If I'm being honest, I'm surprised to hear you being a little bit moderating in your position on this one. So I guess I have to take a little bit of the other side here and try to say, I think I can understand where the frustration of some of the millennial panelists is coming from. They're basically saying, look, laws on the books are only favoring one group. And I understand that. That is, like, you could say by definition, a favoring of a race.
Yeah.
Right? And so I get that. I do think they're overreacting to, like, the threat level a little bit, like, or at least maybe not over. I don't know. You can make your own determination on whether they're overreacting or not. But, like, I do think they're underselling, as you mentioned, the threat level that comes from Islam because of the nature of it, because of its history. You don't have to look very far back to see the Crusades were a response to Islamic aggression to protect Europe from invasion, So it's not that long ago.
I would say
people get the Crusades wrong. A lot of people get the Crusades wrong, and Christians even get the Crusades wrong. They don't understand, and not to defend every single crusade, because I'm not about to do that. But
not all crusades are the same.
Not all the crusades were the same, but many of them were responses to the Islamic invasions that were happening.
Yeah, in the defense of Christians around.
There you go, my Catholic brothers in Christ. You are welcome. I said something on that you're gonna love and love it. You will.
Yeah.
Jacob's over it.
No, I agree with you. So I would argue they're both equally bad in different ways.
Now you're giving me the real.
I'm more so. Yeah, my point was the dismissing the Islamic threat. I think is stupid. It is still a threat though, and we should.
Should we let them keep going a smidge more, and then you can comment on the other side of it, because I think they're going to get into the threat from, like, the potentially, like, the Israeli connections that
just let me finish on the Islamic threat. It is a real threat. It is a different threat though. It is a cultural threat. It is a physical threat. Especially with the open borders that we've had, there are unknown entities in this country, or known, we might actually know who they are, we're just not stopping them, that are planning to do harm on American citizens for Allah, and that is a problem, and we should not put our heads in the sand over that.
Yep, that's good. All right. Keep rolling.
Well, so you're the ones that are against Muslims.
I am against Sharia and the imposition of it on us, because it's not only contrary to Christian
but that's not happening.
Civilization. You are not paying attention.
You're the ones that want to talk about Judeo-Christian values all day long and use our whole military in the Middle East for Israel. And you want to talk about Muslim influence? We're done. We don't buy it.
All right. And going back to what I said to you before, you are going to reap the whirlwind if we don't sort it out. Of a world in which jihadis are here and are running.
And why are they here? Why are they here?
This is a false dichotomy.
Why are they here? They're here because we're in the Middle East destroying the Middle East. We've destroyed the Middle East.
No, it's bullshit.
No, we haven't destroyed the Middle East. How's the Middle East doing right now?
I'm talking about...
How many countries are being bombed in the Middle East right now?
About this country. You just suggested that they're here because we've screwed up the Middle East. They've screwed up the Middle East, and now they're screwing up Europe, and they're here.
When did they come here?
They're in the process of screwing this up.
And when did that happen? This has all happened while we were kids. We watched all of this happen.
This has been happening since Henry Ford started bringing Palestinian and other Arab workers to run those factories.
But that was never an issue. The issue now is that there's very large numbers of
Muslim Brotherhood,
ethnic sort of
Sharia supremacists,
sure,
Somalis and others who are here to destroy our country.
Sure.
I agree.
Do you believe the official story of 9/11?
To it, you're not.
Do you believe 9/11? Do you believe the official narrative?
They might be making a little bit of a turn here, but
Yeah.
I'll let you comment.
Okay. Kind of a hard one to comment on. So I agree with Owen partially, and I agree with the Boomer a little bit too. I agree with Owen on the fact that I do think the main reason why we see Islamic violence in this nation is because of the actions we've taken in the Middle East. Even if you just look at if you look at some of the phenomenons that we kind of have in our minds as synonymous with Islam, like suicide bombings, that wasn't really a huge thing until we got involved. That wasn't a thing at all. I mean, the first suicide bomb attack against an individual happened right before 9/11. It wasn't like their standard operation. Granted, the Muslims were incredibly violent back in the early days of like the Christian church. They were killing Christians. But the aggression towards the United States, I think that is mostly a result of us and our actions in the Middle East. I think 9/11 is a result of our actions in the Middle East and the USS Cole and the Beirut barracks bombing. That is a result of our actions that we kind of went over to the Middle East and started bombing and killing people. And I think the main reason why we did that, and this might be a little conspiratorial, but I think it's what Owen thinks as well. I think the main reason we did that was to help our ally in the Middle East.
Yeah, I don't know if I 100% agree. I don't know if I completely disagree. I think there's definitely some relationship between people coming over here after we were involved over there. Somewhat, I think that's actually the governments that are in control at those times that then bring, air quotes, refugees over. It really is the Western democracies who have allowed the importing of all these Muslim people, right? Islamic people to come over. I mean, speaking of racist policies, I mean, do you remember the person that was murdered by knife in the UK this week?
Yeah.
Henry, wasn't it Henry something? Henry?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember his last name. It started with an N, I thought. Henry something. I feel bad not remembering it off the top of my head, but I mean, just horrible tragedy. He was stabbed. And then he told the police he was stabbed. They let him bleed out.
They handcuffed him.
They let him bleed out basically without responding to anything he said. He was pale as a ghost. I mean, you could tell this guy had no blood in the system, like crazy.
That wasn't Muslim though.
But it was by someone who was given an exemption because in the UK, you're not allowed to have like knives.
It's Sikh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Sikhs.
So there was some racist, if you will, policies that led to that.
Yeah. And
stuff.
I think the prime minister said he's not going to change that ruling, which
which is insane.
I have a viewpoint that I don't think there should be restrictions on weapons, but that's because I'm an American.
But to have them for one people group and not
allow
others
one people group to have them, specifically the Sikhs, because of some religious ceremony that they do with the knives. It's some kind of ceremonial thing. Even within in our own country, within like the military, I think the Sikhs are still allowed to carry knives when other soldiers are not allowed to. But yeah, I mean, there are racist policies for sure, but some of them people are like, oh, that's really bad. And some of them people are like, oh yeah, it's just common sense.
Well, like I guess I don't know if I'm even pushing back 100% on what you said because I sympathize with it, but I don't know if it's like just because we got involved in the Middle East that all of the immigration and all the bombings and everything happened because of that. I feel like that's too simple of a perspective, not saying that's what you're saying, but
I'm not going to say our action in the Middle East is the number one driver for immigration. It is a big driver though, because we did a lot of damage and people immigrated here as refugees. We took a lot of people in as refugees. I think
that's
hostilities.
Though, right?
Yeah, that's us. I think the hostilities towards us are 100% a result of our action in the Middle East.
So agree and disagree. Like, you're right. Us doing what we did certainly didn't, smooth over tensions, let's say. But these people do hate us, generally speaking. Like, I think their religious nature is the Islamic countries they want to conquer. Like, they do not view Christians as friends.
You have to remember,
so like you're kind of like
they don't view Christians as friends. Now, at the same time, Muslims will say they view us as people of the book. Okay, so if we were in their land, they would probably want us to convert. As far as being across the globe, they're not going to do that. They're not going to come across the globe to come kill us and make us convert. Maybe eventually, but not right now. The reason why they came around the globe to kill Americans who are also Christians, so they're the enemy, is because of what we did in the Middle East. And if you don't believe me, I mean, our engagement in the Middle East prior to our, hostilities involved us supporting Muslim groups, giving them weapons. We gave them all the weapons that they used to fight the Soviets. So we used them in a proxy war against the Soviets. We gave them weapons. We trained them. Osama bin Laden was one of our guys, right? We literally built him up and trained him. I think he trained in the United States, if I'm not mistaken. And then once it became a problem and we needed to deal with them on behalf of a Middle Eastern nation, we acted, and that hatred towards us grew. And I think it's almost 100% to blame for why they act the way they do towards Americans.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree 100% with what you're saying. I'm not saying I disagree entirely. I do think our actions have ramifications, but it's like the moral equivalence is like if you just put all the blame on us for their aggressive, evil behaviors, it's like, well, they're to blame for their aggressive, evil behaviors, right? Like that they are to blame for that, not us.
They are to blame. You can
say that we didn't help the tensions necessarily, but I mean, to be fair, were they saying, America's the great Satan, or Israel? I don't remember what they say. Is it Israel the great Satan and America's the tiny Satan? I think it's the other way around. They say America's the great Satan, and they've been saying this for many, many, many years. So
but
let's just say my point is there's pre-existing tensions. True?
I think there are some pre-existing tensions. But I think that if you go back in history, those tensions emanate from a different source than what we've been led to believe. All right. And as far as them being to blame for their actions, yeah, they are. In the same way that if I go into a bar right now and I punch somebody and then he punches me back, he decided to punch me.
Well,
right?
Okay, that's like
right?
that's a bad example.
Is it? Is it? Because if we go over there and fly planes and bomb their villages and kill their people, and they come back here and bomb us, is it not a good example? Like it's they still chose to do that. They decided not to turn the other cheek, right? They decided to come over and kill us, but some of that blame, a lot of that blame, falls on us. We kind of had the inciting action there, right?
I'll just give you the last word, and then we'll keep rolling with the
But my point is, they are a danger. They are a threat. I agree with Owen that we're kind of the reason why they're a threat for us over here in America. But they are a danger and they are a threat, and we need to not be oblivious to it.
Okay. I'll keep rolling here.
I believe 9/11 was an attack by...
You're not answering the question. Answer the question, yes or no. Do you believe the official government narrative of 9/11?
I believe that Sharia...
So no, the answer is no, but you don't want to admit that, because if you admit that, you admit everything that's followed that is based on a lie.
I don't know what you're saying about...
Like Muhammad Atta.
What are you talking about?
He did cocaine, he was with strippers. Do you think he was really like a religious zealot?
I am perfectly prepared to accept that, yes.
That he was a religious guy?
I am perfectly prepared to accept that religious guys do that sort of thing.
But he was from Saudi, I'm saying, but he was from Saudi Arabia.
On their way to paradise.
I know, but he was from Saudi Arabia, and then we go.
So what do you believe? What is the narrative that you believe?
Well, I believe that Condoleezza Rice and George Bush had, knowledge of the attacks before. They were warned by the FBI. They didn't.
What about Howard Lutnick too?
I'm saying they didn't take the threat serious enough. So that's just the official story. If you want to get into the conspiracy side of it, the majority of the hijackers are from Saudi Arabia, who was an ally of ours. And then if you look at what happened, they use that
ally of ours.
Well, I mean, they're soft.
It's not.
Yeah, particularly back then.
Well, we do a lot of business. We do a lot of business with Saudi Arabia, but I'm saying we never invaded Saudi Arabia.
And Qatar.
But I'm saying we never invaded Saudi Arabia. When we went to Afghanistan, they weren't from there. And if you look at the Mujahideen was created as a proxy group to fight the Russians. You can watch a movie called Charlie Wilson's War that we funded this. So I'm just saying we funded the Mujahideen, and guess who was connected to that? Osama bin Laden. So at one point, Osama bin Laden
worked with them.
I know. I'm saying, so we worked with the guy that blew us up. It sounds awfully convenient, is what I'm saying.
Worked with them against the Russians.
I know, and then all of a sudden he just attacked us. It's just the story. It doesn't pass the smell test.
It doesn't pass the physics test.
He was consistent.
I like Owen chiming in. It doesn't pass the physics test. I mean, we don't have to really get into too much 9/11 stuff here unless you want to.
I mean, they harped on a couple of the things that I said earlier, but yeah, I think 9/11 specifically is really uncomfortable for the boomers. Mostly because...
What do you mean? I didn't know it was uncomfortable for them.
I think it's uncomfortable for them because they did live through it, right? They experienced it in real time. I lived through it too, but
I was going to say I did as well.
Yeah, I lived through it too, but I was a little kid, and maybe for some people it's a little different. I think the younger generations are more likely to look into it and kind of look at some of the information that doesn't quite add up, and whether that means the buildings were blown up by charges that were placed, or that at the very least, the least conspiratorial take of it all is that we knew that it was going to happen and we did nothing to stop it, which is probably pretty true. There's the official narrative just doesn't really line up on that. Similar to a lot of things that have happened in this country.
I think the reason the explaining the divide here, that they're experiencing is the millennials feel like they, the boomers just have taken the government line on a lot of stories and they aren't discerning or questioning. I think that's the gist of a lot of their criticism. 9/11 being sort of what a lot of them view as like you just can't accept the government story wholesale is the way the panel at least is handling this question.
Yeah.
I have not personally looked into too much on 9/11, so I'll leave it to you to be our expert on that one. But
yeah, one of the ideas, which is, there's some credence to it, there's some evidence that maybe points to it, but I'm not going to say that I fully believe it, is that there was Israeli involvement in 9/11, and it was used for the purpose of drawing us into a war in the Middle East, which would serve their goals, which isn't totally unprecedented or unfounded because if you remember back to the USS Liberty incident, in which during the 7-Day War against Egypt that Israel was involved in, one of our vessels in the area was attacked by Israeli gunboats and fighter jets and killed a ton of crew members and almost sunk the boat, even though they were flying an American flag. A lot of people believe, and to this day, they just say, oh, it was an accident. And a lot of the investigation on that's been kind of squashed. And then the Lavon affair as well, which was another effort to draw us into a war in the Middle East, which was a Israeli operation to frame Arabic men who were Mossad operatives in the bombing of U.S. embassies around the Middle East. That one came out. There's a lot of information on that one.
I don't know enough to comment.
So
I haven't really looked
Lavon
into
affair, it was a failed thing. They caught the guys, but those guys were eventually awarded medals in Israel for their service. So it was an Israeli op to attempt to draw the U.S. into hostilities in the Middle East. So that's the evidence that gives it the most credence for me, that theory, is that Israel has a history of perpetrating false flag attempts to try and draw us into the Middle East. Am I saying that's what happened on 9/11? I don't know. I don't think anyone will ever really know. But it's a theory. So just so you guys are aware.
I kind of feel like there's like two things going on. Is like on the one hand, the millennial panel feels like they've been lied to a lot. And a lot of younger people just feel like they're constantly being lied to, which I think we are kind of being constantly lied to. But it also kind of leads to this obsession and paranoia sometimes, you know, and you can imagine naturally so, because when you're being lied to a lot, you just imagine you're being lied to all the time. And maybe, I don't know what the percentage is. Like, for example, you know, the mainstream media lies so much, right, about everything. I remember when the war in Ukraine broke out, or right before it did, the media was obsessively saying Russia is going to start this war of aggression in Ukraine. Russia is going to start this war of aggression, you know. They were just talking about it nonstop. And I was like, not going to happen. I was like, Russia wouldn't do this, because literally I was just like, the media lies to us 100% of the time. But it was actually 99.99% of the time. And, you know, there actually was a war that broke out in Ukraine. So, you know, you get lied to enough, you just kind of start distrusting everything. And I kind of think that's almost where one of our particular, you know, your strengths are your weaknesses, right? We're tuned into some of this stuff. We're looking, but we also can be weak to over jumping the gun on believing every conspiracy sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, so to give the younger generations the benefit of the doubt, right? We live in the information age where there's a lot of information available that the boomers did not have access to. So they may have lived through more of these events and really, like, you know, felt it in the moment and had the emotional impact of it. We're kind of disconnected from these events, and we're also getting all the evidence that leads us to see that we've been lied to on a lot of stuff.
We have been lied to a lot.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot more.
They lied to us about that there's more than two genders. They'll lie to us about anything, right?
So I think there's a lot more trust just kind of innately from the boomers, and there's a lot more skepticism from the millennials, which can be good and bad on both ends, I think.
Yeah, good points. We'll keep rolling.
Pursuing a Sharia supremacist.
Then why did we support him? Why did we give him money?
Regardless of
all that,
hold on.
With the Soviet Union,
instead of this devolving into an argument about 9/11,
which I'm enjoying, by the way.
The upshot of that is that at the elementary school near my house, Travis Heights Elementary in Austin, we have such an influx of Afghans. They're teaching classes in Pashtun, and American kids can't get education. So they're here because we went to war in the Middle East.
In jihad as well.
But they wouldn't be here if we didn't go to Afghanistan and blow up their country, and then we brought them all back with us.
Some of them would have been, but not like
from everywhere.
Like Biden brought in legally.
Sure, not to the degree that we would
basically were jihadists. They were not people who helped us in Afghanistan.
Is every Muslim a jihadist?
Not everyone, but plenty of them are. And the ones who aren't, you know what they call them? Apostates.
But can we not?
The problem with that is you get killed, so they don't do much to help.
So I think that the reason the 9/11 conversation is important is because I think the biggest difference between us, we're all on the right side politically, I think the biggest difference is foreign policy. And quite frankly, if we're talking about conservative principles, then our foreign policy is the farthest thing from conservative. Because here's what we have witnessed. We have witnessed in our life, our downtowns, our metropolitan areas, our civilization. We have watched everything decay in our lives. That's what we've witnessed in front of our eyes, to the point now he's talking about you can't even go to a school. They don't even speak English. You don't even want to go downtown. You might get mugged. But you know what has been happening while we've been watching our civilization decline? We've watched other civilizations around the world basically start from nothing to become nicer than ours, all over the Gulf nation states. And you know where all of our blood and treasure has gone? Into the Middle East. And you know where our foreign policy remains? Stuck in the Cold War era. And there's nothing conservative about it. We have not benefited at all from it. And that's why we're ready to just rip the cord. We want a total divorce, and we believe that is going to solve all the problems that we're talking about here, because we've tried it your way, and all it's done is cause the problem.
It appears that the current administration is softening its stance on deportations.
Yeah, they're switching to the next topic. But yeah, I mean, not to hammer on foreign policy too much, but yeah, I think probably a lot of what Owen was saying there, you would agree with, that the forever wars, the engagement in the Middle East has really just been a net negative for us at home. And I have a lot of sympathy for that, because a lot of times these wars are started under false pretenses. As we've seen in Ukraine, a lot of it's for redistribution of wealth. They're really just big, grand redistribution of wealth, projects. Democracy, spreading democracy in the Middle East was all under George W. Bush was all just total sham. I mean, there was none of that was happening. It was a redistribution of wealth.
I think one of the biggest shams in history when it comes to starting wars is fighting against communism. It's ironic we fought World War II with the communists against fascism. And then every war after that, we fought against communism, Korea, Vietnam. It was.
Yeah, the Russians were sort of our geopolitical opponents, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, the problem has always been more the communist mindset, the socialist mindset at home to some extent.
Yeah,
it's like, how do you fix that?
But we're using our resources, our blood and treasure to go fight it in other countries that didn't even ask for us to come.
Yeah, not disagreeing there.
So, we use a lot of false pretenses to draw this country into wars. And to bring it back, like from a biblical perspective, right? I know this is, kind of a Bible podcast, so just touch on it. When it comes to war, right? We believe that war has its place, right? There's a time for war, but it's something that should be done sparingly, and it's something that you have to have a really good reason for. And being the world police and fighting communism in another country is not a good or valid reason to go to war under the Christian framework. Maybe in the Judeo-Christian worldview it is, but in the Christian worldview it is not. That is not how we should be operating.
I don't know. I guess my views on this are a little more complex because I can understand the desire to exert influence across the globe because the world is a small place these days. I'm not trying to advocate for these forever wars and whatnot, but you play devil's advocate for yourself here. Why do you feel like America exerting influence somewhat globally is a good thing? Do you think is there any case? Thing? Yeah, you play devil's advocate for yourself. Do you think there's any benefit to us? Let's say we didn't spend the crazy amount of money we spend and we could do it on a budget. Yeah,
I can list off all the benefits for our country.
What would those be?
War enriches us dramatically.
Well, right now it feels like it depletes us. That's what they're arguing. The millennials are arguing we lose money.
It steals money from the taxpayer and puts it into the corporations, right?
Yeah.
War enriches a lot of people. War does a lot of things for this country. That's the main thing is war enriches us. We're not doing it for land.
So let me ask you
we don't take land when we go to war, but that's the main reason why it's beneficial. That has nothing to do with justification as far as from a Christian worldview. We don't go to war so that we can get rich.
Well, sure.
That's just wrong.
Okay, let me ask you if you feel like, was there ever a time in the country's history where going to war was justified, was good? I mean, it sounds like you don't really buy the anti-communist stuff, like any of those wars. So you don't really think you thought they were kind of. I'm more just interviewing on you on this one because I don't really have strong opinions myself.
I do not agree with communism. I think it's evil. However, I don't think we are justified in going to a different country to fight war against communism. I think that is ridiculous, in my opinion.
I guess you could say, the Bible says stealing is wrong, right?
Yeah.
And stealing presupposes some level of private property. You're stealing from someone, right?
Yeah.
Communism basically says you don't own private property. The state owns everything.
Yeah. But
Am I wrong about that?
Does that injustice happening in another country justify us going in and killing hundreds of thousands of people?
Well, let me see. Well, let's play this out a little bit because I'm not exactly arguing with you. I'm really just curious your position. So, do you feel like, let's say, for the low price of $1 million, we could save 1 million people that were being genocided in another country with no American casualties? Would you spend it? Imagine it's Christians being
with
slaughtered.
No American casualties?
Imagine it's a genocide of Christians in another country. Would you be a proponent of sending our troops in to go save them?
In that specific instance, yes. Because
why?
it's different because we are saving Christians who are in persecution. That's more of like a Christian worldview thing. That's more in line with like the Crusades, right?
Well, let's make it increasingly tough on you here.
Okay.
So let's change the group from Christians to, let's just call them Polish people. Let's say there's a pogrom or something, some kind of crazy situation where there's about 1 million Poles that are about to be massacred. And without any American casualties and for the low price of $1 million, which isn't what it doesn't go as far as it used to.
No, that's not,
you could save them. Would you do it?
So
not Christians, though.
In all these hypotheticals, it's not realistic because there's always sacrifice when it comes to war. There's always a cost. There's always lives that will be lost.
Except in the one we did right before Iran, our intervention in, where is it now? I can't even remember off the top of my head.
Venezuela.
Yeah, Venezuela. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily agree with that either.
No, but we didn't lose anybody.
Yeah, no, but I still didn't agree with us.
I know, but it's not my point
that.
to you being it wasn't a hypothetical. We did actually intervene and we lost 0 people. So that can happen. It is possible.
We killed people though.
No one on our side was a casualty.
Yeah, but we still spilled blood.
Didn't anyone actually? I mean, I think they did die,
yeah,
right?
There was like
I don't know how many.
60 or so people who died.
60 or so. Okay.
Yeah. That wasn't, I don't think you can classify that as a war. That was like a mission.
Incursion?
That was a mission, basically.
So like that level, will you support that kind of like stuff? Or
I didn't support that one.
So how do you feel about communist China or the CCP?
How do I feel about communism? I disagree with their government structure. I disagree with the fact that Christianity is basically outlawed there.
Well, let's say it was really easy for us to just try to put up some resistance to them in various places of the world. Would you do it?
Resistance to them in various places of the world.
Right. You would have to exert American influence in various key locations across the globe where you don't want China to have influence. I mean, there's, with all these wars, they lie to us. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah.
But I do wonder how much of it has to do with, we see atheist, communist China trying to be ascendant over what remains of the Christian sort of slouching into atheist West. And we don't want them to increase the power of their financial currency, the yen or whatever it is.
Are we the world police?
Well, that's the question is how far do you go?
I do not want to be the world police. I don't think we should be the world police.
I guess what I'm asking is help me draw the lines for you. Are you a total isolationist?
Not totally.
Well, what do you support then?
There are very niche instances where I don't think we should be isolationists, but it doesn't have to do with going in and killing a people group that we disagree with. It involves very specific goals like saving persecuted Christians, or if we're doing humanitarian work, I'm fine with doing humanitarian work if it's something that's not going to like destroy our country, right? But as far as going and waging wars to be the world's police and say, we don't like your ideology, we're going to come and kill 100,000 of your people, or to say, well, we don't want you to have influence in Africa, so we're going to come down to Africa and have influence there and then have proxy wars with 2 different tribes in Africa against each other at the behest of America and China. No, that is not right. In my opinion, that's not right.
Well, we fought a war for independence.
That's so the war for independence. That's not really the same thing. That's a
it's
different
my
thing.
job as let the reader understand or let the listener understand. It is my job as a semi-moderator to put Jacob through the hoops here and make him explain his position. I'm playing a little bit devil's advocate here.
So there's a difference between a war for independence, like in our country, and a war in another country, right? Because we live here. This is our nation. We do not live in Djibouti, Africa. Okay. And we might not want China to come in and build a huge base and mine a bunch of lithium or do whatever they're doing there. But that's not our country. That's not unless we're the world police, unless we're going to have the American empire over the entire earth.
So I hear what you're saying. England didn't agree with us. That's why the war got fought, is they said, no, it's ours. It's not yours. Yeah. And then same with Russia and the Russian, basically mostly Russian based areas in Ukraine that they wanted to take back over. They said, well, these are Russian speaking areas. They want to be united with us. You should let them return to us and secede from Ukraine and come back. And So there's always disputes on boundaries.
The thing is, that is Russia and Ukraine's war. Kind of like how Israel has their wars that they fight with Lebanon and Iran. That's their war. That's not our war. If anything, and this is going to be a super hot take, coming in hot, fresh out of the oven, if anything, we should be fighting against Israel with Lebanon because Lebanon has a ton of Christians that are being displaced and killed by Israelis right now.
I can't say I know too much about Lebanon's situation, but wasn't there a bunch of terrorist activity over there?
Yeah, there was a terrorist group, sure. Just like how there was a terrorist group in Gaza, but that doesn't necessarily justify destroying every single building that's there, you know?
We'll get into this because I think the panel, the millennial panel is more aligned with your thinking. Yeah. I guess I am not like, I don't love forever wars. I think we've been lied to about wars. I'm sensitive to that. I agree with a lot of that. So, I understand where that's coming from.
Yeah.
On the other side, I do kind of feel like there's a little bit of an overreaction against Israel. I don't love it. I don't love everything they're doing. Okay. I don't love it. I get that. And I am open to my friends who are, saying, hey, they've done a lot of bad stuff. I'm like, okay, keep talking to me. I'm listening, just like I'm listening with any other country. It's like, tell me why this place is bad or whatever. I do think what I was trying to get at earlier is I don't necessarily think that we're doing another country's bidding by intervening in these Middle Eastern areas. Like, I think to some degree we have our own interests that we're pursuing.
What is our interest?
Global power and influence.
Is that
consolidating the American dollar and defeating or at least putting at bay the Chinese bloc, essentially.
Is global power and influence worth carpet bombing people in another country far away from us?
I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just telling you that is the idea. I'm not even trying to say I agree with it 100%. I'm just saying, you have to acknowledge that there's two sides of the debate here. There's not just, we're intervening for Israel and that's it, right? Like, that's one position, but there is another position, which I think is somewhat true, that we have our own interests, whatever they are. They're lying to us about what our interests are. Yeah. But I don't think it's the same as it was under the Bushy era where we were, essentially just, it was about money and power. I'm a little bit more
poppies.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, barely, about what we're doing. I think it does have some level of like consolidating American power globally. I think that's partly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And taking out a regime that we see as very hostile to us, because they are hostile.
And I'll even grant that premise that is what it's about. Is that a reason? Is that a biblically justified war?
We should save that for a just war theory conversation, but I'm at least telling you, I'm not even saying like what's right or wrong.
What's your initial?
I'm just telling you the facts on the ground.
I just want a little thought from Kyle. Do you think doing a war for that sake, even if we have interests, geopolitical, whatever it is that justified from the Christian worldview? Is that a just war?
I don't know that I have a great personal theory of what makes for a just war, but I don't know. At what point, if someone's getting in your face at a bar and they're right up in your face and they're threatening you, do you punch first or do you wait to get hit?
It's much different.
Well, I mean, the world's a small place. That's what I'm saying. Is like, these are gray areas that are hard to just say, I'm not the guy in the hot seat.
Yeah,
all right?
Someone punching you in a bar is more akin to like a foreign invasion on your land, right? Someone coming in meaning you harm. That's different than someone who doesn't like you. That'd be like saying, at what point are you justified when you're standing across the street and you see a guy in the bar who's flipping you off and mouthing swear words at you? At what point are you justified in going into the bar and beating him up?
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
You're trying to say it's a little more like unprovoked what we're doing over there.
Not even that it's unprovoked. It's just, is it justified?
You were just making the point that it's like we're buying plane tickets to go beat someone up, basically. You know,
yeah, for the sake of because we want to beat that guy up so that we can run his pockets and take his wallet, right? Like,
I think we should move on. I think it's a good topic, but
we beat that dead horse.
I hope you can appreciate. I'm just trying to suss out what you think. I really personally, I don't even care about these topics too much.
I think it's good because you're. We're expanding the conversation a little bit.
Indeed. I mean, I'm doing my best on stuff that I personally don't think about all that much.
Kyle,
but
you're doing a great job.
There you go. All right, here we go. Keep rolling.
700 officers leaving Minneapolis. Did that come from you?
Yes, it did. I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. Many countries opened up their prisons and dropped them into the United States. Those are the people who are getting out. And we have a lot of heart. I said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels and all. And we're looking to get the criminals out right now.
Seems like a drastically different stance.
What's your thought on that, Kyle?
The commercial just played and I kind of forgot what he even said. It was about immigration, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it was Trump.
Yeah.
Trump's.
What's your thought on those clips?
Well, was it they were both the same, or were they slightly different? Like he was basically saying
they were the same. Yeah.
He's basically saying, "Oh, we only care about the criminals." Well, I don't think that's exactly what he ran on.
No, not at all.
So, I mean, we talked about this in episode 1 of this 2-parter or whatever it is, 5-parter, 15-parter. But I'm happy for what Trump has done on immigration. I'm glad the border's closed. I think we need that. We've taken on a lot of people, frankly, that are hoisting foreign flags while they're here. And they don't care about our country, really. Many of them don't. I'm not saying all. There's exceptions. Some are very thankful to be here. Even if they came in illegally, they're very happy, and they're, sending money over back to their countries they came from and shipping it out of our country. So yes, there's problems with the immigration system right now. Some of it is just, the world has changed technologically that you can get on a plane and fly somewhere so quickly. The world is not as big as it used to be when you had to get on a ship and sail for months and months and months to come over here, right? Like our founding of our country was not built with the assumption that, you could come have an anchor baby over here in your spare time right at birthing season and then head back home. Yeah, I said birthing season. You're welcome.
That's a wild thing.
I know. I had to make it a little contentious. But basically, I'm going to have a child. Yep, let me go have it in America, and it'll have citizenship here. It's like, that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
You're not really, truly, a part of this country. You don't care about this place. You're using it, right? So
yeah, and
I think Trump's done some good, but I think he could do a lot more good. I mean, there's people that I want him to drop the hammer on immigration. I want him to actually deport everyone who shouldn't be here. That's just my personal feeling. So
I think that's his voter base's feeling too.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't criticize so hard that it's like you forget the good, right? And he has done a lot of good.
That's true. But just this is what we're examining right now is something that's inconsistent, right? So we gotta drop some criticism here.
We're doing it live.
It's a starkly different message from what he ran on. It's a starkly different message than what people voted for. And I think the boomers will agree with the millennials. I haven't seen this yet, but I think they will. But
I think it is a point of unity between the boomers and the millennials.
The one statement in there that bothered me the most was when he specifically said there's a lot of good, hotel workers. And just from an optics point of view, that does not look good for Trump being a hotel owner, right? So it's like, we gotta like have some fortitude here, like stand behind what we ran on and say, hey, I hear the outcry from all the people who are illegal immigrants telling us we don't like it that you're deporting illegal immigrants. Well, guess what? You're an illegal immigrant. You don't get to complain about it, and we're going to get rid of every single one of you. Well, I want to see some consistency in like this. Dude, I swear, if
It bothers you, I can tell.
If Trump can achieve the goals, his campaign promise, even just on immigration, he would go down in history as one of the best presidents of all time. And all these people who are criticizing him would be able to say, for all the things that he did that I didn't like, he was actually able to solve this problem, and you have to give him credit for it. And that's, I still have hope, and I want to see that happen.
I feel your sentiment, and I agree with the heart behind where you're coming from. I don't even, I think the boomers and the millennials are both going to agree. Immigration is a monster issue, right? I just think whatever we can do, it is. I feel like, that whoever it is that said like, freedom is one generation away from going extinct or whatever. I don't think people realize how close the country is to teetering over the ledge. And I maybe I'm just being a millennial conspiracy theorist when I'm saying that, or like all the, we already criticized the climate alarmists that are kind of going overboard with all the, the world's going to end in 5 years or whatever. And then it doesn't. And then it's the next 5. But, I've heard the criticism that it's like, oh, this is the most important election. And then the next one comes around. It's like, oh, it's the most important election. But I mean, when you have a situation in the country where immigration affects so strongly who gets delegates, right? Like where the representation goes, to what states, because they import them to their states to buff up their numbers. And then they do the census and they count it all wrong and it goes 99-1 for Democrats, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Oh, well, I guess we counted wrong. Well, we can't do it again for another 10 years. It's like, that's strange. Or, oh, all of our districts are gerrymandered based on race as Democrats so that we can disenfranchise conservatives. And then the Supreme Court rules that they can't do that. So like there's ways for us to win. And maybe Trump is, I don't know. I'm trying to give him a charitable read as best I can because I want him to do better on immigration. I'm with you. But I guess the charitable read would be he feels like politically it's losing to drop the hammer, which I don't know if I agree with that, but that may be what he's thinking. And so then he's thinking, well, if we can win on gerrymandering, if we can win on election integrity, and solidifying our elections, we'll just win every election from here on out. And like, maybe that's what he's thinking. I just think, why not do all of it? Yeah. I don't know why if he does think that it's a politically losing issue now, I don't think that's the case. I think he's just made deals basically. Yeah. I think he won the popular vote based on what he ran on. Those issues, like those people didn't decide, they didn't change their mind. They didn't say, actually, we do want wars. Actually, we don't want deportation. Those people still want those things. They're still politically winning issues. A majority of the country wants that. So, stick to your guns and see it through. Can I ask you, do you think that the assassination attempt on him multiple times, on his family members, do you feel like that is having an impact on him at all? It's possible. Do you think what this guy's been through, like the hell, the crazy amount of pushback? I mean, dude, it takes someone with really tough skin, to just hold to their principles. Like, I'd like to think I'd be that perfect, statesman that always holds to every principle when I got through into a difficult spot, when my family is going through a rough patch or whatever it is, right? Like, but truth is, when I have experienced public scrutiny at times, it's tough, man. When the weight of public pressure comes down on you, I mean, I've only had it in very limited degrees, but it's happened several times in my life where it's like a group of people kind of all at once is like, Kyle, you're so wrong, on X, Y, or Z. And it's like, it really makes you question yourself. It really does. And I'd like to think I'm fairly strong in my beliefs, but imagine assassination attempts, imagine your family being, plotted against. And like, he's going through a lot, we forget all the things that are happening, right? Like, this was a guy that took a bullet for us. We can't just so lightly brush that off, even if he's not doing as good as we want him to. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Although I don't know that changing course is going to help him in regards to further assassination attempts.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's his calculus. And maybe he's caving a little bit to pressure.
Maybe.
I mean, even the toughest guy is going to cave to some level of pressure.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe he's going in with no qualms and just like, I think this is better. I
think it's likely that there's just some
backroom deals.
There's some backroom deals going on.
That's probably more likely. All right, we'll do a little bit more here. I think they're getting into this
than he had before. Does this worry you?
Yes.
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 And that
what's
was
going on?
That was one of the first instances where I was prepared to walk away from Donald Trump after working my tail off in 3 elections and putting a lot of time, effort, blood, treasure, etc., into getting him reelected. To see him back off from that was beyond disappointing.
Why do you think it's happening?
I'm going to agree with my millennial friends over here that it is the influence of big business. And I've seen it in my home state of Florida, where we have the Disney company firing 2,000 American creators and technicians and hiring 2,000 foreigners and demanding that the Americans train them.
Right.
Is that what you think?
Well, I can't disagree. I mean, that is just observably true. And I think Trump has all but admitted it without putting it into words. But I think that if you look at this from like a domino effect, why is he saying we need a softer touch? Why has there been this issue getting the illegals out of the country? And I think you kind of have to go back and look at the larger administration and Pam Bondi, who I think has been maybe the biggest letdown of the administration. She was supposed to shut down these organizations. She was supposed to shut down the organizers and the funders. She didn't do it. So they got all these protesters out on the street. Now you got 2 of them dead. They try to go do a deportation operation in, you name it, Minnesota, wherever, and now they're out on the streets. They're disrupting it. And so now the Trump administration is sitting here with 2 dead bodies saying, fuck. What are we going to do? Just call it off. There's nothing else we can do. And so I go back, and I'm not trying to get stuck in a foreign policy rut, but I think it applies. Again, I'm seeing, where can we get things done? We can get things done in every other country in the world. No problem. It's all getting done. Money, manpower, resources, equipment, you name it. We got it. But if we want to do a mass deportation here, sorry, can't help you. Can't even get the protesters off the streets.
We got war in Iran before we deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia. That's where we're at in this country.
And one thing for me, it's like, I love the Constitution and I believe in our right to protest, but it seems like this administration is more worried about anti-Semitism on college campuses than they are about people getting raped, like Lake and Riley. And you would think that that would be, a little higher on their priority list than kids protesting and holding a sign that maybe it is anti-Semitic, but at the end of the day, we do have the First Amendment. We have right to, freedom of speech, and it seems like they're taking away our rights to protect a certain group when they should be protecting all of us by kicking out these illegal immigrants. And the jihadis, we want them gone too, but it just doesn't seem like the administration is focused on that. They're focused on very narrow things that actually don't benefit the Americans that voted for them.
Yeah, but that's...
Yeah, there's our first hard F word there on the podcast, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. We're doing it live, so...
It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think we mostly have adult listeners. So.
Yeah.
And we've marked all of our episodes as explicit, I think.
Well, a good chunk of them. I've been not doing the recent ones, but these will be for sure.
These will be explicit, yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're not wrong. Like, Owen's not wrong there. It's like we can get things done anywhere in the globe except for at home.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, he's not wrong. I really don't even want to add more than that. I mean, I felt like it was so self-explanatory. It's like, geez, domestic policy is like the one place we're crying out for change, and we can never get it.
Yeah,
we can never get it.
It's one of those rare things that kind of transcends both of these groups, right? The boomers and the millennials.
Well, and the weird part is the Mamdani following socialists in New York want radical change at home too.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we're not the only ones that want change. So, and a lot of these extreme lefties, they're kind of, not to throw out a name that's living in infamy right now, but they're kind of Tucker Carlson fans. Tucker's like, let's focus on domestic stuff. Let's forget these forever wars. I have a lot of sympathy for that. I think Tucker's got his own problems, but we've had episodes that we've highlighted Tucker's logic and reasoning, and we thought it was sound on a lot of things. So, not saying we wholeheartedly agree or disagree with him, but he's got a point. It's like, let's focus on home. Let's fix up home.
Yeah, when you're right, you're right.
When you're right, you're right.
And I think the message of America first,
it's a good message.
That's a message that in some areas transcends right and left almost, which is surprising.
It does. Well, somewhat transcends.
Yeah,
to left.
in some areas, it transcends right and left.
Yeah.
And I think everyone can agree that is. I'm not going to say everybody because obviously not everybody agrees.
Everyone agrees. Sorry, you don't get to disagree.
Yeah. Sorry. Right now you have to agree.
There's
with
no
me.
disagreement allowed.
Yeah, there's no response feature.
Jacob
on this
tells
podcast.
me that after the podcast is over. He says, "Sorry, you can't disagree with me anymore."
Yeah, but what happens in this country directly affects us. So it makes sense that you want to take care of your people, your family, your town. You have to have some kind of priority on your nation.
That's honestly partly why I don't study all this stuff that's going on overseas. It's like, I just want us to kind of chill a little bit. Like, okay, if you got to exert some American influence abroad, okay. But like, do we have to do it the way we're doing? And can we just stop talking about all that stuff? Can we get back to actually doing the stuff that's going to secure our elections? For me, that's really high priorities. I don't really trust our elections. I'll be honest. I don't think that you cannot verify elections properly. I don't even think a lot of the audits are done properly. We live in the technological age, but we actually need to go back to paper stuff because paper's harder to cheat. That's the funny thing. It's easy to spam a database and to override a whole database and hardly leave a trail.
It's a lot harder to physically,
so easy to do.
It's a lot harder to phically stuff a ballot box to the point to where it makes a difference.
Well, and the other thing is all these watermark technologies that they have on paper and what cardstock you use, it's actually sophisticated. It's not as dumb as people think when you're talking about paper and security. It's actually pretty good. And other countries, almost every other country in the world can count all their ballots same day in their paper ballots. We have to have machines to do the counting because it would take too long or it would not be secure enough, but then it takes longer and it's less secure. So the very reason that we say we should use machines, it's it doesn't actually practically give the benefits that they say it does. It's not more secure. It's not faster. It's actually less secure. It's less transparent. All of those things. So I'm much more a domestic policy person. I'm let's fix that.
Yeah.
You want to do a couple more interchanges here?
We can do a couple more, yeah.
All right.
That's what really worries me, I got to tell you, is those
protests
parties that got in here.
But is protesting?
Millions over those open borders.
Frank, let me ask you this.
Perhaps, just one more point. Perhaps as many as 200,000 Chinese soldiers who got in. I haven't heard a word from the administration about deporting any of those people. They're not even
in fact,
on
to the
list of
contrary,
priorities, let alone getting out.
We brought up the 600,000 students who are here, and I believe Donald Trump first said this is terrible. 300,000, sorry.
And then he said he was going to give him a green card on their diploma.
Then he was going to double it.
Right. But what was that about? That was all a part of the financial negotiations with China that had to do with forcing them to sell TikTok because they weren't censoring the Palestinian videos.
It's all deal making in the most peculiar.
A lot of things.
Yeah.
But that was a big.
Well, but that's another.
Coming back to my point of what is MAGA? It is a marriage of convenience between various interest groups, and it's falling apart.
Yes.
Not because of anything that conservative boomers did or did not do. It's falling apart because President Trump is walking away from some of those core commitments that he made.
Well, in your original question.
It's kind of an interesting one to end on, honestly. We could end it there after that because he's basically talking about, he thinks Trump's walking away from his own movement, which, a little bit debatable. I get where he's coming from on that.
Yeah. I mean, if you view the people as the movement, right?
Well,
then,
it's the idea, right? Make America Great Again was the idea that's like, okay, and America First were united, to my mind. America First has kind of taken on a life of its own because that's really, in some sense, the core driving principle.
It's like the spiritual successor to MAGA.
Well, and I think Trump even coined it, didn't he?
I don't think so.
Or he's used it in many of his rallies. It's America First. He said it many times. I'm almost positive about this. It kind of got taken up by Nick Fuentes a little bit, and he has the hat line that's based on that. And, you know, it has had other people that have latched onto that for good reason, because we want America to be put first. We don't want other countries' interests put above our own. We want our own people to be put first. Like, I think that's a driving idea in this millennial group is we got put second to all the H-1Bs. We got put second to forever wars. You know, we want to be like actually treated well again. So like put the country first, put us in the country first. You know, immigration is about putting the American citizen first, right? Over the foreigner. And so like I think the definitions blur a little bit, but I think we are still trying to achieve that agenda. I do think they're right that Trump he's made deals behind closed doors that it's like, dude, what are you doing? And I don't know. Like, look, I'm not sitting around saying I know all the offers and all the things that have been, you know, thrown his way that he has to choose between. I don't know, dude. I just don't know. I can't tell you. I can only tell you what it looks like from where I'm sitting, which is like, it's tough. Some of the deals are tough, you know, that he's given, like the worker or the students from China coming over here. It's like, oh, dude, like, did we have to negotiate for this one? It looks like a total L.
It does, yeah. My view on the situation, kind of broadly, and I'm honestly, I'm kind of glad to see the amount of agreement between the generations.
They started off hot and then they kind of have come to the middle.
I think there's like a select few issues that there's hot debate, but there's some core issues that we're very much in agreement on, which is good, which means that the idea and the movement of America First still exists and it's strong and people still want that, regardless of if support for Trump might be waning. That doesn't mean support for liberals is growing. It just means that the support for Trump maybe isn't there as much, which Trump isn't running again, right?
The support for him doesn't have to be there. Yeah,
the support doesn't have to be there. The support for Trump being there, I think that it is good for there to be support for Trump if Trump is doing good things. And I want Trump to do good things, and I'm going to continue to pray for Trump to do good things. But looking forward, we have to start looking at who's next, right? We have to start looking at the successor. And whether that is Vance, I don't know enough about Vance. I want to see Vance
and Rubio are probably up there for right now.
I want to see Vance get out there and start kind of showing us what he's about. Is he going to continue on current Trump, or is he going to continue on what they ran on? Is he going to come up with something new? We need to know this stuff. Is it going to be Rubio? Is Rubio going to be the vice president? Is it going to be someone else like Thomas Massey, or someone who's just kind of like out of left field who kind of is in the anti-Trump camp?
Or Tucker, like Massey.
Yeah, or Tucker. Someone in the anti-Trump camp who still holds to conservative values that can kind of garner the support of the people who fell away from Trump that are still conservative. I don't know what that looks like. And, you know, within the next, I think in this next year, we're really going to see that come to a head and have more of a clear view of how that political landscape is going to look. But for right now, like, we still are in control of the government, right? I mean, that's maybe debatable, but we're in control of the government. We want to see Trump do the right thing. We want to see him follow his campaign promises. We want to see him make good on some of those. He's not going to make good on all of them. That never happens, ever. But we want to see him make good on some of those promises. We want to see him thrive. We want to see this country turn around. I think every American wants to see our country thrive. Every good American.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the amount of agreement between the boomers and the millennial panelists as they went on and kind of got closer towards immigration I mean, that's the route makes you wonder why Trump's number one thing was immigration, right? That was on the docket as his number one thing was immigration. And it's partly why both sides of the panel here feel a little let down because they didn't get as much as they hoped for with immigration. But it's still what they're both unified on, and they'll still keep voting, to achieve that. And I think, like, I don't know, the last guy who talked from the boomer side of the panel, like, he kind of made it sound like, oh, the movement's breaking up and it's dissolving. I mean, to me, to the contrary, I felt like even just seeing this panel, they're basically saying, look, we want this agenda to keep going.
Yeah.
You know?
To say that, you could say that support for Trump is maybe breaking up and waning.
I don't even know if that's true, though.
I think it is. Because
Really?
if you look at polls, his approval rating is down a lot. So the support for Trump current Trump might be waning, but the support for those morals and those goals that he ran on is not. If anything, I think that support for those things is increasing in this country. Every day that we live through all this crazy stuff that's happening and more people see it, that doesn't necessarily mean they support Trump. So I think there's there might be a false, there's a sense of like, oh, we're losing. The conservatives are losing. But I think it's kind of a false metric. I think conservative support is growing pretty fast in this country. And so I'm like moderately hopeful, pretty hopeful. Maybe I shouldn't be so hopeful for the next election that it will be a conservative win. I think it really just depends on who the candidate is. But
you mean presidential election?
Yeah. I think this is really important.
Yeah, I think it is actually very important. I guess my biggest fear is that it does seem like there are young people that are willing to sit out elections because they don't have the feels for that particular candidate, and I'll be fair and just say, look, I was very positive at the start of Trump 2.0, and Pam Bondi really let us all down. And it's not just her. The administration let us down. They made it seem like they were going to make this big delivery on Epstein, and they never did. They never did. I mean, they gave us files, sure, but I would not even really, and they get into this later if you're interested in continuing to watch it, but they get into Epstein a little bit more. They talk about the letdown. And I think young people really wanted transparency. They really wanted to root out corruption in the government. And they saw Epstein as the secret key that would unlock so much of the corruption in the government. And because Trump failed on that, it took approval rating down like an astronomical amount for young people. And then you throw in another war overseas, and especially with all the anti-Israel, I'll call it that, sentiment amongst young people, it was like, hey, we're doing this war for another country. That's the feeling. And it really, my biggest fear is that younger people will sit out the elections and not vote for the good guys. I mean, we know who the good guys are here. It's like, I'm sorry, if you're voting for people who want to sacrifice our children to the demons, it's like, I just can't get behind that, or trans them if they actually make it out of the womb. It's like, I think that's demonic agenda, and I don't think we should be supporting that kind of stuff. So do you have to hold your nose a little bit to vote for a candidate? Sometimes you do. Sometimes, even if you really, I think there's more. I don't even think I personally have to hold my nose to go vote for Trump. I feel like he's done a fairly good job, and we have to remember the juggernaut he's up against. The deep state is a real thing. There's a lot going on that we don't see. So you kind of have to bear that in mind. But yeah, that's my biggest fear is the millennials and the younger will kind of sour and go with their emotions and not actually get out and support. But
and that's my biggest
the boomers big fear for the boomers is that, like, on the other flip side, that there will be so pro-Israel that if anyone gets in that's anti-Israel, they'll sit out.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe.
They could. I mean, the Mark Levin types out there.
I think, I still think the boomers are not willing to vote for a Democrat. They could sit out, but they're not willing to vote for a Democrat. I also don't think the young people are willing to vote for a Democrat. I think they are more likely to just sit out. But I think that we have the possibility in our future of a candidate who is able to bring the right together on those core principles that we all seem to agree on, and deliver us a win. And I say us, like, I'm still, the reason why I am a conservative, the reason why I vote Republican most of the time, like all of the time, but, you know, to be determined. If there's a Democrat candidate who comes out that I should vote for, then I'll vote for them. I'm not going to say, oh, the party, whatever.
Like a Tulsi Gabbard or an RFK or something like that.
But the reason why I do that is because I am a Christian. My faith informs the way I vote, right? And it's kind of like a non-negotiable. I feel like I have to vote. I have to vote for the best possible option, the option that will glorify God, right? And I have to make my assumptions and base it off of the available information, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But that is how we should be voting as Christians. And we should be voting. We should not be sitting out. But we should be thinking of this not just in a political level about, like, you know, policy, you know, foreign policy, you know, immigration, all this stuff. We need to be pushing for a government that is more aligned with Christ and under Christ. We haven't really had a candidate yet who has run on a big, like, I am a follower of Jesus Christ platform. You know, potentially if Vance was running, maybe he would do that. I know he's a Catholic, you know, we have our mixed opinions about our Catholic brothers, but I'll take it. I'll take a Catholic. I mean, Joe Biden was a Catholic too, but we'll just forget about that. But I mean, like, if JD Vance is the candidate and there's some things I don't agree with him on, but he's up there proclaiming Christ and he is running on his morals as a Christian, I'm going to support him. And that is the best possible option in my mind. So it's tricky. It's really tricky. But I think in the end, as Christians, we need to make sure our priorities are right. Think of it like this. Think of it like a totem pole or something, right? At the very top is Christ. That is our North Star. That is what directs us. That is what informs everything that we do. Christ is at the top. Then there is America below that, right? That is our home nation. That is where we live. That is where we raise our families and spread the gospel, right? And then there is the rest of the world below us. Not that they're lesser than us, not that they're any less human, but they take a lower priority than our own nation. We have to look out for the interests of our own nation before we look out for the interests of the world. And if we are able to thrive and flourish by looking out for ourselves, that gives us the freedom to go around the world and help the rest of the world thrive. If it makes sense, you know? So those priorities, I think, for Christians are imperative. So if you're a boomer or a millennial or a zoomer, it's going to be, you know, maybe this next election will be the first election that you get to vote in, or it's the 10th election you get to vote in. I don't know how old you are. Think about that when you go into the ballot box. I know there's like the trope of like, oh, I'm just going to not vote. I'm just going to write in Jesus on the ballot. That's a great thought. Doesn't do anything. It doesn't actually do anything. You're better off voting for the candidate, if there is one, who proclaims Christ as Lord. And if there isn't one, voting for the candidate whose values closely align with the scriptures.
1/3 of Christians don't even vote. So, I mean,
That's a problem.
That's a big problem. If we want a Christian agenda, it's like you need to encourage your Christian friends at election time. And I would recommend especially Christian friends who have good Christian values to get out and vote, because it's highly important. I think if Trump's, I don't know, I guess I'm on a feel-good moment right now where I feel like listening to this, that there's a lot of agreement between the older and younger generations. There are some things where I think there's been some entitlement, maybe some misunderstanding, between the generations, et cetera. But it does seem like by and large, we're moving in the same direction, if not perfectly together, polling for Christian values and for good in the country. And I think recognizing the problem that immigration has posed us lately, from old and young is a very positive sign. And I guess last things I'll say would be, I think if our DOJ can continue to ramp up and actually prosecute real crime, especially election integrity crimes and things like that, and we can go into these Democrat stronghold cities where there's election integrity issues and bad judges, and we can actually start fixing some of that stuff, I think there's a lot of hope. I don't know how far we'll get with some of that. Might take a while. Things take a while to turn around. I do know that. But the gerrymandering stuff that's been overturned and like redistricting that's happened in various Republican states, even though it's not as much as we want, it's still made some progress. All of that's very positive, and I think will lead to better outcomes. So let's just keep praying that God's will be done. His kingdom will come on earth as it is in heaven. And that's about all I've got. You want a closing thought, and then we're done.
Christ is King.
Christ is King.
And millennials and Zoomers, try to find common ground with your elders and lovingly inform them of things when they're wrong, but also have ears to hear what they're saying. I think we need to be engaged in conversation. We need to be slow to speak, and we need to be a lot better at listening. And I think there's hope. We have a lot of hope. And that hope comes from Christ, right? Our hope is found in Christ, and that we win, bro. It's not just to like dismiss everything going on right now, but we win in the end. But our goal on this earth right now as followers of Christ is to spread the gospel, and we need to see our nation become a Christian nation again.
Absolutely.
And we can do that. So don't lose hope and work with your elders, guys.
Yep. I think that's about all from us. It's been Reform or Die for part 2 of Brandon Straka's Millennial and Boomer panel, which has actually been quite fun. So thanks for joining, Jacob, for part 2. Thatcher was here for part 1, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.